Everybody, welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Micah Cratty, the head of writing at Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. There's a link to check out Arc Studio in the description. Today, I am joined by a very special guest and a very good friend, Richard Brandon Manus. Richard is a pro TV writer producer. He's written on shows like Last Man Standing, Single Drunk Female, Grownish, and others. Some of you might recognize him because he's done some Q&As with us in the past that were awesome. We did one that was about comedy writing and one that was about developing characters. I linked actually both of those in the description on this video because I think there's awesome. There's a lot of great stuff in there, so you should check those out later. But Richard, thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
What's up, man? I'm glad to be back, and yeah, pumped to get my writer's sprint on. I've been wanting to come here as a guest many times, or like to lurk in the background, I should say. So I get to do the best of both worlds. So I'm pumped.
That's right. So the way it works is we start with a couple questions to get people going. I want to know where everyone is and what they're riding today. I love seeing people from all over the world. We've had people from every continent except Antarctica, which is my quest to get someone down there at the South Pole to join in on this show. I don't know what their internet's like, but that would be great. So yeah, where are people all over the world? And what are you writing today? Are you working on a feature? Are you working on a pilot, a short film? Sometimes people are working on other creative projects like a book or essays or something. So get in the chat, let us know. And then we have a little discussion question because we got to get in the writing mode. I don't know, people are eating lunch or doing work or chores or doing something else, taking the dog for a walk, but maybe not thinking about writing. So today's question, and I want to get Richard's opinion on this in just a second, is how do you write a story beat as a scene in your script? And this is kind of a little more of a process question, like how do you think about it? What kind of things do you think about? So you have your outline, you've got your story beats, and you're going from that, and now you're in the script, and it's interior, house, day, whatever, and you're actually trying to translate that from outline into script. How do you think about that transition? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I would love to see people in the chat chiming in with their opinions as well. People are saying hello to Richard. Welcome in here. Got people from all over. Excited to see everyone here. And yeah, it's going to be a great show. But Richard, I'll just say where I am. I'm in LA and I've been working on a feature. And I kind of finished a first pass last week. That was a little rough. I wouldn't call it quite a draft yet, just because there were some holes and it was a little long. So I'm in the process of and these are sort of arbitrary terms, turning my first pass into an actual first draft. So that's what I'm working on today. Richard, where are you? What are you going to be working on?
I'm coming to you from Michigan today. Split my time between Michigan and LA. So I'm in Michigan at the moment. And I'm going to be working on a feature right now. I'm in the middle of kind of a rewrite on a movie. And yeah, that's what I'm grinding on. Yeah.
Fantastic. So for people who are new, and this is also Richard's first time, you're wondering maybe what is Let's Write Script? How does this work? So at the start, Richard and I are going to chat a little bit about this discussion question, and then we're going to do timed writing sprints. We'll start off with a 15-minute writing sprint. Then we'll take a break. We'll answer some questions from you guys in the chat about screenwriting. Then we're going to do a 25-minute writing sprint, and then we'll take another break, answer some more questions, and then we'll see how it goes at the end. Usually we do a third writing sprint, but sometimes when we have guests on, people, we like to talk. So we'll see how the time goes.
I'm here to sprint though too, man.
I know we're gonna
I planned my work day around this. I was working before, but I was like, we're gonna get some sprints on in the early evening. So I'm here to sprint as well.
We're going to write. No, definitely is going to be writing. But for everyone there, if you're feeling it, please like the video, hit subscribe, turn on all notifications. And then in the second break, Richard, I don't even know if you know about this, but I do a little thing called the sandwich of the week where I show a photo of the best looking sandwich that I made each week. And so I got a beauty this week, and I'll be showing that during the second writing break. I used to show it early, but then people get hungry and it was distracting. So now I wait till a little later in the show.
Are we giving notes on the sandwich like executives? Are we like, the looks a little questionable here, man? I think your first act break is a little weak.
You can't. If you have thoughts on my bread slicing or ingredient placement, I will take. I want to learn. I'm always here to grow. It's a process.
We want to get better every day.
I want to get better, so I will do that. All right. So we got our discussion question here, and this is something I feel like writers deal with in different ways, because we've talked about on the show, there are some writers who are really into outlining, very detailed outlines. So by the time they get into script, they have things kind of more broken. And there are others who do kind of minimal outlining. And so when they get to the script, there's sort of more they have to do. But kind of for everyone, there is still that moment where you go from the outline where you're kind of thinking in story terms to where now you're in the script and you have to think like, what are we actually seeing? You know, I do my scene heading and there's this action. What am I describing? How do I get this scene going? How do we lead our characters? There's so many things you have to do. So just kind of curious, Richard, when you're doing that, like what's your process? Kind of what are you thinking about during that part of the writing process?
I feel like for me, I tend to probably lean on the side of doing more of the story breaking, a slightly more detailed outline. So a lot of times for me, um, hopefully I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to be getting in the scene, looking to do, what I'm looking to accomplish. But I think the most important thing for me when I'm jumping from outline into script is honestly just getting like the worst version of the scene down as quickly as humanly possible, which for me is honestly still something that I struggle with. I don't know if anybody else out there struggles with like turning off the inner editor, you know? But for me, I just try to turn that inner editor off and just be like, let me just write the most generic, most boring. I mean, hopefully not as boring, obviously, but like I just gotta get it down, and then I can begin to like see what the body on the table looks like, and then work from there. That's the first thing for me, I think.
Interesting. So I mean, we talked a lot about that. There's sort of the idea of like vomit drafts or kind of shitty first drafts, pardon my language, on the approach and on the scene level that can happen where you just sort of have to have something to work with. So you're getting it down. What are you figuring out? Are you is it just getting it down or are you figuring things out kind of in that first pass and kind of trying to just see where the weak spots are, where it's feeling good, what you have to figure out?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably have a hard time even beginning to. I mean, sometimes like you do just gotta like do a straight up exploration and just see if the people are going to speak to you, and you go from there. But generally speaking, for me, I think I have a hard time hopping into a scene if I don't at least kind of know what the conflict of the scene is and like what on a story level I'm looking to accomplish in the scene, and really again what that central conflict in the scene is, what's keeping our hero or our main characters from getting what they want, and what is the change going to be from how we went into the scene and coming out of it, and looking to service that in the most interesting way, so
I like that. Just in saying what you're saying, just like what's changing, because it's always weird. Like I try to define what a scene is, and it's like, okay, a story beat is sort of a unit of story. Scene is a unit of production, but like a scene in some ways is kind of a unit of change, right? Like there's a reason for this scene. Life is different before and after this scene, not in a huge way necessarily. Sometimes it's a huge way, but it's a small way. So I think that's really interesting just to like be like, okay, what's the change? It's like, what's the point of this scene? What am I doing? It could be a story reason. It could be a character reason. It could be a mix of different things. But like, I love that, just being like, okay, what's my starting point? What's my ending point? And that kind of gives you a sense of like, yeah, what is the point of this scene in my script, in my whole, structure?
Absolutely. And I think like a lot of times, I'm not trying to like shirk the question or anything like that, but I feel like, if you begin to get into the scene and you get to the end of it or you're getting into it and it's feeling like your people are kind of like in the same position emotionally as they were on the way out, as they were in their way in, you might not really have a scene worth writing, honestly, on some level. Sure, maybe it's satisfying. Oh, I got to get this plot thing out. I got to get this exposition out. Oh, we need to know that they just got broken up with or blah, 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 blah. But like that in and of itself is not enough reason for a scene to exist. Like a good scene is going to honestly do 2, maybe 3, maybe even 5 things all at the same time,
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like that sometimes it can go far because there is like this idea that like, I think like a rule that's too far is that if a scene doesn't further the plot, it has to be cut because it's not just plot, right? There's other things that we can look at, but it's like, it should do something like it changes the emotional tenor. It develops the theme. It gets us like to know the character in a new way, but yeah, it doesn't have to just be one of those things. Like you're saying, like it can be these multiple things. And that great scenes often are working on these multiple levels. I like this. Joy in the chat saying I do an entering emotion, objective, motive of the antagonist, the turn, and exit emotion outline template for each scene. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool approach to scene writing. Shoko saying every scene I write needs a further plot, character, or setting. If it isn't hitting one of those three, it's got to go. I think that's a good baseline, but like as I was just saying, I think there are other things kind of that a scene can be doing. It's hard to speak in broad terms. I think that's just like a general good structure, but like, there's so many different kinds of scenes that you can, that you can have. I think also one thing I like to think about is a little more abstract, which is sort of like, what's the energy of the scene? Like in some ways it's the tone, but it's just kind of like, it's kind of related to like, what's the fun of this scene?
I was
like,
literally thinking, I had the word fun in my head, like literally.
Yeah.
As you were transitioning into that, 1,000% agree.
Yeah, because it's like these are supposed to be entertaining. There's going to be something about this scene that like is worth watching, and a lot of that has to do with tone and genre, right? Like obviously, if you're writing like a horror movie, and if you're writing or a comedy or a slapstick or something like that, you're going to have different things. But like every scene, like it should be watchable, right? It should have a watchability to it. So it's going to be like, what is going to make this scene interesting for the reader initially, or for the audience eventually who watches it? And like, how can I get that started kind of right away or as early as possible?
And for me, I think sometimes that stuff that I maybe find, look, if you can find it on the first time through or the second time through, that's beautiful. But I think sometimes it's something that I'm finding, whether it's a rewrite of the scene in the moment or, on a subsequent time going through the script again, is like really trying to find like what is the most fun / entertaining, whatever you want to call it, version of the scene. Like the scene, it can be perfectly adequate. It can be doing the job of what needs to be done. But like, is it a scene that we feel like we've seen a million times before? Or is it like, I think a lot of times something that I've been trying to look for, particularly in the movie that I'm writing right now, is like, is there a version of this scene that I can only do in this movie or only in this show? Because I think a lot of times that's when you're going to begin to find some of your better material, because you are doing something that is specific to the idea of your thing, and it can't be done anywhere else. So its chances of maybe hopefully being unique go up a bit.
Totally. And I also feel like those are the moments where you really find the nuances of the character, because like whenever you can find that like specificity to it, like the moments where you're just like, you get tingles where like your character has done something or something, and you're just like that is special to this thing. I love that feeling. I think that's fantastic. How do you feel about how do you think about arcs of a scene? How do you think about kind of change, and how you're kind of getting from the beginning to the end of it?
I mean, I guess every scene, depending on where it's at in the movie, it may carry more or less of that kind of a weight, I think. But again, it sounds cliche and it's said a million times, but I think most of your scenes, again, we don't want to say that there's always a rule you got to follow. Most of your scenes you're gonna want to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I think that tried and true, again, storytelling, lesson of starting the scene as late as possible and getting out as quick as possible is going to help. I mean, for me, if I'm in a scene and it's longer than 2 or 3 pages, I'm asking myself why, and if it really needs to be that long. And sometimes the answer is yes, but if you really think about it, most scenes are going to be, particularly in a movie, are going to be quicker, pace is important, so it's and again, a lot of that comes with really knowing why the scene needs to exist and whatnot. In my
yeah, I was facing that recently on the thing right now. I was rewriting, it was an early scene and it was important, and it was just it's a little long, something's happening, and I feel like one thing that you can find in situations like that is there's some kind of double beat in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're sort of doing something and then this other thing happens. I had a thing where it was the character's in a band and he was playing a song, and then they kind of talked a bit, and then they played another song. And I'm like, it's weird that they're playing 2 songs in this scene. It just, the energy is weird. I need to figure out a way to make it just one song and then have it. And I figured out one of the ways to do that is and it made it better, is that there was an emotional beat that happened during the song being played. And I'm like, great, now it's not just someone random. There's an emotional thing happening. So I feel like that's just a general principle or something to look for. If your scene's too long or it's kind of dragging, it's is there some sort of double beat in here where I can combine this and make it a smoother, shorter thing.
Something that I find also I tend to do a little bit kind of off of what you're saying, particularly like when I'm doing comedy stuff, is like the scene's running long and I'm going through it and it's just kind of feeling flat. And then you're looking at it and it's like you got like the same kind of like joke 2.5 times, or like you kind of have a line that's like a version or idea of the joke that's actually the funny joke down here, or you feel like we got to banter it up and blah, 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 blah. And then like, I think you can really begin. I mean, it's why I think comedy's harder to do than drama, to be honest with you. I'll just say it, but I think stuff can really get long and begin to feel flat because you have a bunch of like what I call like stuff that's kind of cute or kind of clever, but like, is it really funny? Is it really a joke? Is it really like earning its place in the moment?
It's more like it's atmosphere kind of, not actual like.
It's funny-ish, it's cute-ish, but it's like, or again, like, you kind of have made the same joke 3 times and like maybe just make it once and do the best version of it, yeah.
It's interesting because I also feel like that is one of those things where it's something to be revised, but sometimes it's an important part of the process because like, I feel like when you're writing that scene, oftentimes you got to the funny joke because you were just like, you start with like an area, right? Totally. You're like, I know there's something funny here. And so you kind of have that bantery, whatever about it. And then eventually you find what the joke is. And so you go back and you cut the earlier kind of weaker, kind of less focused stuff, but that doesn't mean the focused stuff was bad. It was just part of the process because sometimes it's like you have to write the thing that's almost there to get to the thing that's there, and now you don't need the first part anymore, but it was part of the process of getting there.
Well, I think that's also an important thing about, I know it's not something that I think I struggle with, but I know people that do, where it's like some people don't like the outline because they feel like I have to follow the outline and they can't like have that free flowing that you just talked about. And that is important. I think it's important to allow yourself to kind of like get lost on the way to something like you're writing in. It was in your outline, but it doesn't feel like it's lining up for you. Hey man, like, especially like, I mean, look, if you're on a show and the showrunner to give you an outline, you need to execute that outline. Don't go freelancer, but like, if you're doing your own thing, like follow the journey, because I think Jordan Peele was the first person I heard say it. I don't know if anybody else is, but I'll credit him to it. He talks a lot about the importance of finding the fun. And, like sometimes you find more fun or a different type of version of the fun when you get off the outline and into the pages, and you should let yourself, feel and have the liberty to chase that down, I think.
Yeah, I often think of my first draft. I used to think of it as a vomit draft, and now I kind of think of it as a discovery draft because it's like
beautiful.
I have that. Thanks, man. I have these moments where it's like, I think I have a good idea, but it's still a little loose. And it's like, you want to save space for it to get more interesting, save space for it to take a depth. Where oftentimes I feel like outlining is where I do figure out some of the stuff. I mean, you do figure a lot in the outline, but I feel like at some point it stops for me a little. I'm like, I've hit the limits of what this outline is going to let me discover.
Totally.
And now I just need to get in the script, and that's where I'm going to find the rest of it.
If it's an outline that I'm making for my own purposes, I'm perfectly comfortable being like, this thing gonna have to happen in this moment in the plot, and then this is gonna happen, and this person's gonna die, and this is how they're gonna feel. And I don't really know the machinations of it yet, but we know this has to happen and you'll figure it out when you come back. That's not a luxury you have if you have to turn an outline into the studio or whatever. But when you're working for yourself, that's one of the good things about it, is that you can give yourself that latitude.
Totally. When I'm coming back to the scenes for a little bit, there's another thing I like to think about, and this is more of a feeling that I'm aiming towards, which is just like momentum. Like I try to think of a good scene as, I call it like a downhill scene. Like when you're reading it, it feels like you're running downhill. Like it's just carrying you through. And I don't know if I have any, like, I don't know what you think about this idea, but like, I don't necessarily how to get there. It's more like a feeling when I feel that I'm like, oh, now I know that I'm on to something. Yeah, you're exactly. You're cooking. You're just like going. And that's sort of being playful. And in later drafts in particular, not settling kind of for less. That like sometimes when you get to a scene in your script and you aren't feeling that momentum, that you're like, you need to sort of be like, all right, this is gonna be tough because this is a B scene right now. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's doing the job that it needs to do. And sometimes you do have scenes that are just doing the job they need to do.
Yeah.
But like sometimes just like you need to also be like, all right, I have to dig a little deeper and like mess with this thing that's working and break it a little bit. And because I think it can hit, something that's going to make it sing
Yep.
more
Yep.
than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. And a couple other things just like to think about is there are different kinds of scenes. I remember when you were on before, there's something you said about character descriptions that I've repeated actually on this show a lot.
I don't even remember what I said.
We were talking about like, how do you describe a character? And I was kind of talking about like, it's more about like the vibe of the character than their physical attributes. And you said a thing where I'm like, yeah, it's like a big guy, blah, blah, blah. And you said a line where it's like, yeah, he's the kind of guy that like, he doesn't move through the room. The room moves around him or something like that. And you can kind of sometimes use a little abstract language like that encapsulates, someone's being, and having that kind of language at the start of your scene, can be helpful. Like you can be a little abstract.
I think all that's part of the fun, like I think like you don't want to go overboard, because but we are supposed to be writers, you know what I mean? I think it's okay to be a little like, I think that's part of also where like a writer's voice can come through,
Totally.
Particularly, I think if you're working like maybe on a more comedic thing, but honestly, even if you're not, I mean, I think I'm always trying to think about how I want the reader to have a good time when they're reading it, and I think that's all part of it. I think I've talked about it before, probably ad nauseum, but like earning the page turn. And I think any opportunity in the script to help earn the page turn is worth taking it a lot of times.
I agree. And I would just like, I would say like, you could even say earn the start of the scene in some sense, where it's like, there are a lot of times where you just have a character doing something and maybe your default is that they're just kind of sitting at a table, or I don't know, they're just like, they're existing basically. And if you can just like take that first moment and instead of having them just existing in the space, they are dominating, reacting, doing something, like failing, or like just kind of doing something dynamic instead of like just existing. And I feel like oftentimes in my first draft of scenes, it's just someone's just there.
Set in a coffee shop, set in a whatever. And it's like, I think, like all that stuff is opportunity to say something about your character, particularly if you're like early in the script. You know what I mean? You got to think like, hopefully you turn the cameras on am I still there? Did I lose you? Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll break it up, but you're here.
Hopefully they're going to turn the cameras on the thing. And like, it's moving pictures, man. I think it's like an old school idea, but like, it's been said that like somebody should be able to like watch the thing without hearing any of the dialogue and know what's happening basically, So I think all of that is opportunity for storytelling really,
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. All right. This is fantastic. But like, as Richard said earlier, we're here to do some writing sprints. So I think we should take this momentum and move it into the writing. So what's going to happen here in just a second is that Richard and I are going to be muted. We're going to be shrunk off to the side. We're going to be playing some vibey music, and there'll be a countdown timer on the screen. And just work on whatever you're here to work on. These aren't guided sprints per se, because we're all working on different things. But if you are looking for some sort of guidance in your writing, maybe take something that we were just talking about, some aspect of the process. And if any of that resonated with you, kind of try to use that maybe as a signpost or a guide kind of for what to approach in this sprint. But we're going to start with the 15-minute sprint. It's a warm up. It's pretty chill. Oftentimes we're reading over things, free writing, or wherever you're feeling, just dive right in. I think I'm going to dive in. I was doing some writing earlier today, so I'm feeling pretty warmed up. I'm going to dive in. But Richard, you ready to do some writing?
I'm ready. I just want to know, I'm also going to dive in. Am I allowed to go get water before I sprint real fast so I'm hydrated? I don't want to be a bad writer sprinter.
You can do whatever you want. It's going to
be we're here to work, baby. We're here to work. Let's go.
If you need that to succeed, then yes.
I need that water to succeed for sure.
Go do it. All right, 15 minutes on the clock. Catch you guys on the other side, and we'll answer some of those questions I've been seeing in the chat. But so glad you're all here. We're going to do it.
Happy writing, y'all.
All right. And that is the end of the first Write Sprint here on Let's Write Scripts. Sorry, Richard. We should time that better next time. I can have you join me.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that was what I was. I'm not gonna lie. I was still in my scene a little bit. I was like, can I get a little bit more done? But
as he's doing his intro, can I squeeze a little bit more of it? No, it's kind of funny because I'm also like, the first 13 minutes of that sprint were like me banging my head against a wall, and like the last 2 minutes were like, wait, I think maybe there's something here.
I was truly doing what we were talking about, where I was like, man, this scene is a little long. I like a lot of these things that are here. They feel kind of funny, but are they really funny? And like, we just got to get it shorter. It's just too long. This scene can't be 4.5 pages. It just can't be. I'm just trying to get it tighter. So that was what I was doing.
And I want to know, everyone in the chat, how was your writing sprint? What were you working on? How's the writing to go? Are the muses with you? I want to welcome everyone who joined. I'm Micah, I'm the host here at Let's Write Scripts. I got Richard Manus, pro TV writer, producer, and a great friend on the show today. So glad y'all are here. How's Brian? Had an awesome flow of that sprint. I want to hear how it went. And if you were struggling with anything in particular, any questions about the craft, feel free to ask them. I got some other questions I want to get to shortly. But it's kind of funny that you say that you were picking up off some of what we were talking about, because I was doing the same thing, because came to this scene as I was doing this revision, and I just kind of had a scene that's a bit of a nothing. Like, it had ideas that I like I understand why I put it in here, but it wasn't really accomplishing it. It wasn't very interesting. It wasn't, I'm like, I know what I want, why I put this scene here, but it's not doing those things. It's not fun. It didn't have the fun.
Vagaries of a Scene by Richard Manus. That's me far too often. I feel
we've all written that. We've all written that book. But then I was just kind of so I kind of spent most of that sprint just sort of free writing about, like, what do I like about this scene? What do I care about? What am I trying to get at? And I think maybe found a few things at the end to chase. So I'm excited about that. Brian had an awesome flow. Anya also, the music helped. Scene was spooky. Fantastic. Glitchy was in the zone, just bouncing between episodes. Or spark happened. Oh, I love that. I love the spark when it happens.
We love to hear it. Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah. So a couple questions here. This was early on. D from Dallas asked, how do y'all get back in the swing of writing when real life takes away your momentum for a moment? I saw this, D, when you wrote it, and I'm like, oh, that's real. That's so real. And look, sometimes I would say you just have to take a moment. Like, you can't force it if, like, emotionally and just mentally you don't have the juice kind of for it. So I would say don't force it is one thing. Like, let yourself feel whatever it is and deal with, like, whatever it is. But then when you are moving in towards it, Richard, how do you kind of get back into that groove?
Well, my answer is going to be twofold, and I think it will help with a certain type of real life, and it might not help with the other type of real life. So I guess depending on what type of real life we're dealing with, like, if you're dealing with like an emotional thing, or something has happened, in your life that has you feeling a certain type of way, that can be difficult, and I think, like Micah was saying, you kind of got to give yourself permission to deal with that and try to get back to it when you can. I think if it's just like the chaos of life around you, whether that's like kids or friends or roommates or whatever, for me, a lot of times it's like physically having to leave. This is not my house. I'm at an office, you know what I'm saying, that I'm fortunate enough to be able to rent. And it's because sometimes I have to leave my home so I can get some work done. That's not an option for everybody, but there's a library. I used to, when I lived in LA, I used to go to the library all the time because I don't like writing at coffee shops personally.
And I love writing in coffee shops, and so I love writing in coffee shops, and so it's like there's
what was the one Brooks and something scones or something you liked a lot.
Bricks and Scones in Larchmont.
That's it, right? In Larchmont. Yeah.
I remember that was my spot for a couple of years when I lived on that side of town. But I think I love that. It's like sometimes, because it's not also space, it's also time, right? So it's like finding the space where you can write and also the time that you can do it. So, like, obviously coming to Let's Write Scripts, if you can just have this as one thing you can do, great. But like beginning of the day and end of the day are often when the chaos of life, it either hasn't started yet or it's sort of subsided kind of. I think that also depends on whether you're a morning person or or a night person. I'm a morning writer more. But time and place, I think, are very helpful. And I will also say, when you get back into that, like, it can be hard, especially if you're trying to pick up a project, maybe that you were working on and you lost the thread a little bit, rereading, rewriting, kind of easing your way into it. Don't expect to just be like, jump in and write the next scene that you were like, wrote the other one 3-4 weeks ago, and you don't remember the energy or like what the flow of it was. Sometimes you just have to like find it again before you can make progress.
The read-in is super important, but one thing I would throw in, and like some of my best rewriting actually sometimes happens on the reread in from like picking up on the work I was doing before. I think also sometimes, though, for me at least, I can get caught in the trick bag of like continuing to fiddle with the stuff that I've done already and not getting to where I need to be going to progress forward. Like it's all progression, right? But like laying down some new road, you know what I mean? So I think it's, as with anything, it's a give and a take. You know?
You build the foundation and then move forward, and you just kind of have to trust yourself to know. I mean, like, kind of when you're fiddling to, like, when you're like, I'm just wasting, I'm spinning my wheels. Like, you don't know necessarily right away, but you're kind of like, all right, I'm just kind of like not doing the next thing.
There's a lot of ways to write, but like really be putting off like the work that needs to be done. I think the other thing, just real quick, I'd love to throw in to Dee's question, and like this probably applies more like if you're on assignment, if you owe a script or a draft or something to producers or to your bosses or whatever that is, and you do have like a real life thing going on, I think it is very important to communicate with them as early as possible, to be like, hey, I've had a life thing happen. Tell them what the life thing is and be like, I might need a minute, and just communicate about that. Like, don't feel like I can't tell them because they might fire me or blah, 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 or I look bad. And then you don't get to it. And like, you gotta let people know. Because most of the time it can be figured out. But if you don't let people know, they can't help you or they can't work with your situation. And
that can be hard sometimes because you can get lost in whatever the thing it is and it feels like the whole world. But if you can step back for a moment, that's very, very helpful. Pam had a question. Do you edit yourself at all during the vomit draft, or do you try not to edit too much until your second draft? I think this is a very personal approach question. I think some people do pure vomit drafts where they don't edit at all and they get it out. I don't do that personally. I kind of mentioned earlier, I do these discovery drafts, but they're honestly more like discovery half drafts or third of a draft. I'll write maybe 40, 50 pages if it's a feature, and then be like, okay, I've kind of realized what's not working here. And in that moment, I'm not then just going to write the next 60 pages of it. If I know it's broke, I'm going to go back and fix it. So I would say it depends. Some people do you do pure vomit drafts ever, Richard? Or are you kind of back seesawing a little bit back and forth?
I feel like, unfortunately, I wish I could just do straight vomit draft. I struggle to do it. It is. I'm jealous of people that can do it. I really am, man. It's something, and it's something I think I've gotten better at over time. I think I'm pretty good at, like, certainly for a couple of scenes, of being like, we're just going to lay down the chalk, the worst version, and just like kind of let it sit there and then get back into it. I think especially people talk about with regards to comedy writing, but I think it really applies to anything because it's really just a different way of saying what the scene is about. Then you can go back again and figure out, like, okay, what is the game of the scene? Like, what's the bit? Like, what is this central conflict or whatever, and how we.
Richard? Can you expand on that, on the game of a scene?
The game of the scene. Oftentimes, like, all right, I'll give you an example that we probably all seen before, right? So like it's probably like in a comedy, and like the game of the scene might be, the parents doing a fake interrogation, like they're police officers or whatever, of like the kid that came home late from curfew or through the party or something like that they weren't supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like that is the game of the scene, right? The game of the scene is that the parents aren't police officers, but they're behaving as in there. Maybe there's like a light that they kind of like shine on in their kid or whatever, and like they're playing some good cop, bad cop stuff. Like,
or like a game could be a character just really has to go to the bathroom and they keep getting delayed. And something just keeps happening, and then that's just going to keep. Someone's going to come in. Someone's going to, hey, one second, and every time they're going to be like frustrated that they can't get to the bathroom.
And that's like a great example of like, like that's just people always think of like conflicts, like they got to be in a fight, they got to be in an argument. That's a different type of conflict. You know what I mean? And the way that's going to work, right, with your example is we got to know that the person has to use the bathroom, right? If we don't know that, so you want to establish that as quick as possible. So hopefully they're either coming into the scene with that, or we are establishing it very quickly, and we're getting to those interruptions as fast as possible, basically. That is the game of the scene.
Yeah, there's another Steamed Hams is a great game, something from The Simpsons here that Austin's throwing it. And yeah, Juno, it's the same thing as basically finding the game is very similar to the improv concept. Like if you've done long form improv, Second City, UCB, that kind of stuff. Yeah, very, very similar.
Yeah.
Joy has a question. Should character profiles come first or just dive in?
I'll dive in.
I think there was he sent it a correction on the next one. I think this is always interesting because like character profiles, I really love them in theory, but I actually find that I never do them. Richard, do you ever do those kind of formalized? I mean, I think
like a biography of them, like where they went to college.
Or like there's 10 questions that you answer. I mean, I do answer a couple, like what do they want? Why do they kind of those? That's, I guess, part of a character profile, but like, do you do anything formal like that? Or is it more just there's a couple points you want to know?
I think I feel like that's something like that for me is in the toolbox of stuff that I might go to when I feel like there's a problem I need to fix. Like the character is feeling super generic. Maybe they're feeling generic because I don't know them well enough. So it's like, all right, let me take this character on a first date and I get to know them a little bit better. So it's like, okay, let me think about like, where did they go to college? Did they come from money? Are they well read? All these different types of things, because it's going to influence how they talk. You know what I'm saying? Influence how they might act, influence how they may dress. And those things may not be pertinent to the story, but they may affect the way they sound or interact with other characters, So I think that's for me when that kind of stuff becomes more important. And sometimes you have a sense of that already, but sometimes that's something that you may find along the way when you realize that some of your characters are kind of feeling flat, or you'll get the note that all your people kind of sound the same or whatever, and say, okay, well, how can I differentiate people? How can I help them feel a little bit different? And that's when I will do some of that kind of work, I think, a lot of times.
Definitely. All right, let's do a couple more before we jump into the next sprint. Is it difficult to write for the screen without having been on a film set? I think this is like a yes, and it's a yes, but it helps kind of thing, right? Because like plenty of people have written great scripts, like, before they were on a film set.
I think most of us. I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing I would say is watching movies, and probably honestly even bigger, is just read as many scripts as possible. Just read. I mean, like they're a lot of them are very easy to find now, and just reading, because I think it will also help you find your voice, because you're going to see little aspects of different writers and things that people do and tricks that people do that you'll be like, oh, that's interesting, or I like that, or I don't like that, or whatever, and it helps you find your own like kind of way you write and present a script on the page. So I think while it certainly can help, absolutely, I think the biggest thing to do is just really read as many scripts as possible.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also like, that's how I learned formatting. That's how I learned what like a script looks like and everything, so you just read a bunch and that's the best way to learn about it.
I was about to plug a book, but I don't think I have it with me. I love to plug a book or two. I did.
That's right. Last time you were on, you had like a whole stack that you like threw up one by one as we were talking.
I don't see the one I'm thinking about. I don't think I have it here, unfortunately. Never mind then. We'll keep going. My bad. Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Here's fun. We can throw a little controversy perhaps into it. Does anyone use AI for help? I have my opinion on this. And Richard, I would love to hear yours. The way I think about this is I think of being a writer like being an athlete in some sense. And what's important for me is developing the tools and skills that I have. I think of basically the brain as a muscle. So while an AI tool you may think could help you, I think in the long run, it's kind of detrimental to your development as a writer. Like if you're going to be a pro athlete, you train in situations that are harder. You make things harder for yourself to develop your muscles, to develop your abilities. And I think the danger for using AI is that it's not about whether it can help you on this one thing. It's about whether you can develop the skills for creative problem solving, that are going to serve you in the next script and the next script. And the more you sort of offload that cognitive load to something else, I think, especially if you're developing as a writer, it can be detrimental to that.
I think that's true. I think that's true about a lot of stuff, man. I think that's even true. Like, I know people, I ain't gonna say no names, but like, there are shows where it's not uncommon to room write scripts, and I know people, they've been on shows for so long where all they do is room write scripts. They don't know how to write a scene on their own because you get so used to writing as a group. I mean, it was something that I even kind of found with me a little bit at a certain point, like early on, because you're so used to working with a group of people, and you just have like the 12, for lack of a better term, like gangsters when it comes to writing and being funny. You know what I'm saying? And then you get out by yourself, and you're like, man, have I forgotten how to write? Dang, So it's like, I do think it's a slippery slope, with offloading, too much of the work that you want to be trying to learn how to do yourself, onto other people or AI,
Yeah. And also, I would say that's a good thought. And solving the problems is the fun part in some way. Like, it's hard work and sometimes, but like the greatest satisfaction you're going to get is when you crack it, because that's the moment where, like, I don't know, you gain confidence in yourself, basically. Like, if I think about how I have written, I had grown as a writer, it's not that I no longer write myself into corners or a flat scene or anything like that. It's more that I trust that if I put my mind to it and put the effort into it, I will figure out how to get out of that situation. And you build that confidence through repeated instances of doing it, of overcoming the issues.
Also, at least, for now, I mean, I don't know where we going, sadly, but like for now, if you're in a writer's room, I don't think you can be like, yo, let me go hit up, Claude and get this joke punch or whatever it is. I'm not trying to like hate on it. I'm sure there's some valuable things that AI can do, from like helping you research something, helping you learn about a topic and things of that nature. Though I do think also like knowing how to do research on your own is important skill as well,
Yeah.
So I'm sure there will be spots for it in the future, but I think particularly when it comes to like story creation, story problem solving, things of that nature, I try to lean on me and lean on the homies,
Yeah. I want to get back into writing, but Juno had this question. I think it's a good follow-up to our discussion about being on a film set. Juno says, I don't have a great sense of how difficult or expensive my scripts would be to film. I think that's one hard thing about never having been on a film set. That's an interesting point, Richard.
Yeah, no, I think it's a super fair question. I guess it kind of depends on what you're writing for. Like, what is the purpose of the script? Like, there might be people disagree with me, but I think, like, if you're trying to break in, or even if you're not, like, even like for me, like like if I'm writing something on spec, I'm probably not honestly thinking too much about budget. Like,
yeah,
maybe within like reason, we're not going to set everything, floating in outer space. But, like my goal with a spec most of the time is just to write the best movie I can write that's going to get the most attention possible so that it can sell and I can get the most money as possible for it. You know what I mean? And, so I feel like I worry about the budget and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, like after I sold it and they're like, yo, we want to make this, but we can only make it for X amount. So we got to kill, the whole third act because it's too big. Like I had a friend of mine that had to do that. He had sold a movie and he had to do a significant revision, in particular on his third act, because they were like, we need to make this movie for $150 million. And right now the movie costs 85 or whatever. And like, we got to bring it down, which is a different kind of rewriting, writing with budget in mind then. But I think if you're just trying to like get it sold, make the best movie for yourself that you can hopefully, get your career popping or keep it popping. I wouldn't worry too much about budget personally.
I agree. I think, definitely you want to like tell the best story. That's like the most exciting read, the funnest thing. I would also say, Juno, I think writers in general actually have a pretty bad sense of how things cost. I feel like if you watch movies, like you probably have a sense of like, if something's expensive, if there's 300 people on screen and things are blowing up and it's nighttime and like you'd be like, okay, that's expensive. If it's two people sitting in a coffee shop talking, or not even in a coffee shop, just like table, you're like, that's cheap. So like I feel like you probably actually have a decent sense of what's expensive.
If Juno has a more specific, question off of that or whatever, feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll try to answer as best we can.
Awesome.
We want to be helpful.
Love it. All right, let us move into the next sprint. We're gonna do a 25-minute writing sprint. We're warmed up. I call this the Goldilocks sprint because we're warmed up, but we're not tired. It's just right. So I'm gonna get the music going. 25 minutes on the clock. We'll chat a little more on the other side. Richard, thank you for being here. Everyone in the chat, thank you for being here. Let's do a little more writing. You ready, Richard? Jump back in.
Let's get it.
Let's do it. And that is the end of the second writing sprint here on Let's Write.
Right. Script.
We're getting better. We're getting better. Next time, it's going to be right on. Anyways, if you joined during that sprint, this is Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio Screenwriting, where you can check it out at the link below if you're looking for a app to write your scripts. It's fantastic. Richard, that was our Goldilocks sprint, the 25-minute one. You got a lot of time in there. How did it go for you?
It was good, man. We was cooking, man. I'm in it. I finished one scene that I was in before. We're in another one. I identified a bunch of stuff I'm gonna cut out. I'm ready to go for the next one.
Oh, that feels good. That feels good. In the chat, let me know, everyone else, how'd that sprint go for you? Did it go better than the first? Did things take a turn up or down? Either way, you need to have some twists and turns in your story of writing, as well as the story that you're writing. Nick had a great second draft, so the chant was much better. Appreciate that, Nick. That's good. We're getting there. Kiwi had a good sprint. Yeah, I'd love to hear how it's going for everybody. Yeah, for me, this was a tough one, but it was good in the end. I wrestled with it. It's just like a tough story beat, and sometimes you just got to like wrestle with it. So it was like 20 minutes of me just banging my head against the wall, and I think I got it. I think I got it though at the end. So we'll see.
Man.
But
you ready to rock for the next one?
I am. I'm ready to go. All right. Before we get into the sandwich of the week, just a couple of questions from the chat. This was kind of a follow-up on the budget question that Cash had. What if I'm trying to make my scripts myself? Does the budget answer change? I answered this in the chat, but I think it's just worth mentioning that, like, yeah, if you're putting up the money yourself, then it's all about the budget. Sorry, Richard, what'd you say?
I'm basically agreeing with you. Yeah, right what you can shoot.
Yeah, and like that helps also just to think like, what do you have? What kind of locations do you have access to? What kind of people do you have access to? What kind of equipment, talent, all of that kind of stuff, really. And that kind of stuff can actually be creatively liberating. Like, they say necessity is the mother of invention. And if you have something, like, it can really spark like an idea that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think this is D again. Any advice you can give on mini-series, limited series structure as opposed to feature screenplay structure? Richard, what kind of advice would you give for a structure of a mini-series or a limited series versus a feature?
I'm thinking right now. So when I'm hearing mini-series or specifically limited series, I'm thinking it's going to be one season. The journey of the people would be complete after that one season. In which case,
6 to 10 episodes, maybe. Who knows? 4 to 10 episodes.
Yeah, 4. Oh my Lord, help us! Not 4.
Let's say 10.
It do be 4 though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate this answer that I'm about to give because I hate when people say it. Because I generally speak, I tend to think that TV and film are different mediums and should be constructed as such. But I actually think if you're doing a kind of a one season miniseries in your mind, the season structure is probably going to actually be a little bit similar to the feature in the sense that you are really going to be working probably within like kind of a prototypical 3 acts, maybe 5 or whatever, but you're going to have, your first 3 episodes probably going to be your first act, and then your second, and then your third. I think the thing to be careful about within that is that you cannot treat those first 3 episodes, in my opinion, as if it can't just be all set up. Like within those 3 episodes, those 3 to 4 episodes, you still need to have engaging storytelling and really, be coming, in my opinion, with the juice from episode 1, from the first act of episode 1, So like you're going to want to break your first act of those first episodes down into a couple of acts in of themselves within that, and make sure you have engaging, propelling storytelling off the rip.
I think the simplest way I could think about this is that the entire limited series is one big problem, and each episode is a problem of its own. So like, I think Chernobyl is a great example of this, which is a fantastic limited series. I think one of the best ones of all time, maybe. Obviously this is about the meltdown of a nuclear plant. Like each episode is mainly structured around one main challenge for that thing, whether that challenge is a physical scientific kind of thing or a interpersonal kind of thing, but basically try to break the main thing up into what is the big problem of each of the individual episodes in such sense that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The problem is it is introduced, it is developed, it is complicated, it is escalated, it is a climax, and it is resolved. But it's resolved in a way that obviously doesn't resolve the entire story. It's just that small part of the problem that's resolved, and it leads you into the next one.
Yeah. You're gonna want to introduce the problem, and while we're here, very quickly in the first episode, and then by the end of that first episode, it'll be, it will have a level of resolution that makes us feel good about having watched. We watched, but like you then introduce the bigger thing that the whole series is gonna hopefully solve or have us take care of.
It really is a hybrid of TV and feature structure, because the season is a feature kind of, but the episodes are TV episodes. They are individual stories.
And I think that's where people, can sometimes get into trouble, is that you think that you have these first 3 episodes or these first couple of episodes of leeway to do all this heavy setup and world building or whatever it is. But like each episode has to stand on its own and be engaging and entertaining on its own. Otherwise, I feel like Mark Cherry said this was the first person I heard somebody else attribute it to him, but he talked about burning the firewood, and like you gotta, especially in TV, I think especially now, you gotta burn the firewood now. If you're a bigger writer, if you've got bigger actors in things, maybe sometimes you can get away with other stuff. But I generally think for regular people, which I consider myself to be one of, to be clear, I think you gotta keep people engaged. You gotta keep people hooked. You can't just be like, oh, well, episode 3 is gonna be crazy. Like, we won't get there.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
All right, a couple more questions. How much is marketability factor to script selling? I've heard different things from pro writers. I would say heavily, in the sense that, but that's different in terms of like whether it leads your writing or not. But like, people aren't going to buy something they don't think they can get people to watch, right? So like, it has to be marketable in a sense. I do think there's a danger there in the sense of trying to like chase marketability. Can be a bit of a wild goose chase. Yeah. Richard, how do you think about marketability?
Again, I think a lot of it comes down to the goal, man, of what you're trying to do. Like for me, sometimes the goal is to try to, hopefully you can hit both. You know what I mean? Hopefully you can hit something that might be marketable, but also get a lot of interest. But I think, a lot of times if you're trying to break in, or if you're trying to break into, like I'm known mostly for comedy writing, but when I wanted to start to break into drama, which I've been doing these last year or two, the first drama samples I just wrote stuff that I didn't really care if it was sellable or not. I wanted to write the most banger, interesting script I could write. And then, because normally, honestly, people don't really want to hear this, but the truth is, if they like your script, they're probably not going to make it. They're probably going to hire you to make something else that they like. They're going to be like, we love what you did. We have this piece of IP. Can you sprinkle some of your pixie dust on that? That's that's the most realistic outcome, especially in this day and age. So a lot of times you're just looking to try to get noticed, maybe try to get a rep, or, just try to like jump out from the pack a little bit. And I think if you can have something that's marketable that also does that, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't let that guide you too much, I think sometimes.
I think that's great. Just to check in, everyone, we are kind of at the end of our time, but we're going to keep going. Richard, are you good on time? You got some?
I got one more sprint in me for sure.
All right, good. We're going to do one more sprint. I just want to say, everyone, thank you for coming. If you have to head out, really appreciate you for being here. Hope you're getting some good writing done, learn some stuff. So glad we got Richard here. If you do have to leave, please say farewell in the chat. One quick question here. Feature script, 113 pages too long. Someone told me to keep it at 90, but I have a ton of white space. 113 pages is not too long for a script, depending on the script. There are 90-page scripts, I would say, and there are 113-page scripts. If it reads quickly and you need those pages to tell the story, I don't think 113 pages is an insane amount.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think if it's comedy, you might want to get closer to 90 if it's possible. But like, I don't like to say rules, People are asking for your stamps of the day, by the way, brother. Don't forget about that.
I know. I see it. It's coming.
Okay, I'm just saying, yeah, but I think, that's also something I think where it's good to have like a writer's group or have a couple people you can send the script to, and they will tell you if it feels like it's dragging or if it's too long, Totally. Man, there's a great question here from Gambam, but it's so big
that I'll just say that any top tips for someone brand new to screenwriting. I mean, that's all of it. That's all the wisdom. That's all the knowledge. We could just talk about this for hours. I will say maybe just one tip, Richard, anything off the top of the dome that you can fire off here for a newbie. I mean, I would say Richard's tip earlier of read a ton of scripts.
That's what I was going to say.
Google them. That's going to be our top tip. Yeah. You can find them on the internet. Just Google the title script PDF, and there are websites on there, and you can find them. Also, Deadline and stuff. They have like the awards contenders. They post the PDFs of the scripts. Read them and write them, and keep writing and learn from your drafts. Iterate.
And if you can find a community of people, whether it's locally or through the magic of the internet, try to find some folks that you can try to help get better with, help them get better. They can help you get better. And I find that to always be super helpful. I think we've talked about it before, but me and you, we met long ago in a writers group.
That's right.
So, and here we are today, still doing it.
Awesome. All right. Next, is there a sandwich of the day today? There is. Just get into it before we do the last sprint. This is the sandwich of the week. This is the same sandwich, just presented in two different lights. Before I had it sliced in half. This is on a black sesame.
I mean, bro, you did the thing.
When you said earlier about like, what if I have notes for your sandwich? I'm gonna be like, you haven't seen my sandwich yet. I got
excited. No notes, man. I really don't.
Thank you.
It might look a little dry. I'm not sure if you got some mayonnaise in there or something, or some mustard or whatever,
I got mayo and mustard in there. Yes, I do.
I got nothing.
I got avocado. I got turkey and turkey bacon. I got cheddar. I got pickle. I got Italian greens. I got sun-dried tomatoes on a black sesame bread. And and I threw in some fancy Doritos in the foreground.
I think the only thing I would change is the Doritos. I would have a proper potato chip. Because I'm a God-fearing man, I would not be here for these Doritos. That's the only note I got.
I went to a champagne and potato chip party over the weekend. Actually, wow. I'm serious. Our friends had one where they basically like bought a bunch of like weird potato chip, like different flavor type things, and it was like there was like fried egg ones that taste like there was can't even remember them off like the top, but all like the different flavored ones. I hadn't had potato chips in a while, and like it was great. I also just had some plain sour cream and onion, and I'm just like, that's great. Right. It really was. It was fantastic. Anyways, this is the sandwich of the week. Come back every week for a new sandwich. So I appreciate that. How did it taste out of 10? I would say 8, 7.5. It was a solid sandwich. I think, but yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the best I've ever had, but it was like, I'd say an 8. It was an 8 sandwich there.
It looked like a solid 8 to 9. That looked good. I think if you had real potato chips, you would have had a 9, bro. I'm gonna be real.
I almost thought I might do the thing. I want to throw some chips in the sandwich. I haven't done that. I used to do that when I was a kid all the time. I loved throwing the chips. Get with you on that, man. All right. We're gonna do one more sprint. We're gonna end with the 15-minute sprint. To wind things down. Oh, this is a good question though. How do you know if it's best as a movie or series? I would say kind of rule of thumb, if you are creating a story that's kind of got one arc in it, that's generally a movie. If you are creating an engine that is going to create lots of different arcs, that's a series. Anything you want to throw on that, Richard?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was literally thinking, like, do you feel like you have, like, one main character? Or do you feel like you have a couple kind of, like, main or main-ish characters that you feel like you're going to be the one to send on a journey, And I think, like, obviously, if we're talking, like, a traditional TV series, a not limited series, something you feel like that engine that you're talking about is going to, like, perpetuate for more than, like, a finite amount of time, I think that can answer you as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, are you kind of in some ways, if you don't have that traditional engine, is it a world to be explored in different ways? That's kind of, like if you think about fantasy versus, Lord of the Rings versus Game of Thrones, sort of like, I mean, obviously there now is Lord of the Rings show, but like that was a movie because it was kind of like about a journey, right? Like these characters go on a journey, whereas Game of Thrones is about a bunch of characters in different worlds with kind of different story arcs. And that's more of,
And I would say like the setup to that, the setup to Thrones and Lord of the Rings, it's almost like there's problems, but there's also just kind of like questions that they're kind of trying to figure out a little bit, as opposed to like, yo, we gotta get this ring to Mordor or it's about to go down, you know?
Yeah.
And then they did that over the course of 3 movies, you know, as opposed to like you say with Thrones, it's like, you know, we got a lot of different things going on. Like, you know, we go over here with the Targaryens, they trying to get over here. It's just like we're setting up a thing, multiple stuff that's going to be spinning out, basically.
Totally. All right, let's hop in. Let's do one last sprint, everyone. If you have to leave during this sprint, no worries. Say farewell in the chat. Let me know how it went today, how your writing went today. But let's jump into it and just try to like squeeze a little bit more of blood out of the stone before our brains shut down. So 15 minutes on the clock, Richard. One more sprint. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Here we go. All right. That brings us to the end of Let's Write.
Script.
There we go. I knew you were going to get it.
I always forget that you're doing it, man. My bad. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not like I told you about it in advance.
You did not tell me about it
I
at
did
all.
not tell you about it in advance. I just felt it in the moment. Anyways, Richard, thank you so much for being here. I hope you had a good time. Hope you got some good writing done yourself and enjoyed it. I know the audience, the chat really enjoyed having you here and hearing your perspective. And yeah, hope to have you back again, man.
Sounds great, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. And everyone else, thank you so much for being here. I'll be back next week, solo, same time, same place. Keep writing. Let this just be the start of your practice, and be kind to yourselves, and happy writing, everybody. And I'll see you soon. Farewell.
This is John.